It looks like we can get ready to begin. So good morning, everybody. Thanks for making it to this very early session. I know it's very early for me, and I'm sure for many of you as well, so I really appreciate that. This is, of course, I don't remember what I made the title. I made the title like 2 months ago, and all this stuff has been moving so fast that whatever's on the title of the session, you can pretty much just ignore it now because it's probably changed by now and not quite as relevant as it was. So anyway, I'm Jack, in case you were wondering. This is me. I live in San Francisco. I've been working with Brian and Gabe for a long time. This is about, I don't know, 1999. You can see a very different Brian and Gabe there, and me as well. This is me here as well, looking into some puzzling over some mobile devices, as I've been doing for the last 6 months since we launched Consumerize IT. And I live in San Francisco, so I came a really long way, but fortunately that was about 5 days ago now, so I have only staying up late to blame on being tired, not jet lag anymore. So I work for TechTarget, and at TechTarget, I'm the site editor for Consumerize IT. Consumerize IT is 6 months old as of Monday, this previous Monday. We launched that in November as I guess you could call it a spin-off of BrianMadden.com to sort of answer that consumerization question that we first posed 1 year ago here today in London. I also write for BrianMadden.com. Occasional desktop virtualization related articles pop up there. More last year as I'm becoming busier with the consumerization stuff. This year my concentration is on the consumerization site. I also helped write this book. I didn't write as much of the VDI part. I wrote more of the delivering applications and files and stuff to non-Windows devices, sort of the final third of the book. And so that's about what we'll be doing today. That's available on Amazon.com. I wanted to bring some copies to give out, but I think that's it. So why are we here today? This session is ostensibly about these things, but is it really? We all like devices, and I think we're beyond the conversation where we're asking if this is a legitimate business tool. If I see a few iPads around. It was last year, 2011, here in London, when it really struck home the huge number of tablets in all of the sessions. And but I think by now we can put the question to bed of whether or not an iPad is a legitimate business tool. If you want to be having that conversation, unfortunately this is not the session to be having that in. So this session is about what? The consumerization of IT. So we're sort of, for the intents and purposes of this session, we're putting this question to bed as well. We've talked about the consumerization of IT. We've been talking about it for a year now. Yesterday morning in Brian's keynote, you saw him wave his arms and jump up and down and talk about this concept, which we have all sorts of articles describing this as the real issue behind the consumerization of IT. The one way to describe it, this was just last week, the new reality, the IT department has to compete with every single random app and website out there. So just so that our baseline is set, I want to acknowledge that these are the ideas that we first started talking about a year ago. This is the baseline that we're going on. So we're going from that high level to one level deeper in this conversation today. So we started out, we launched Consumerize IT. This is the very first article. Welcome to part 2. This part 2 question was all those high level consumerization sessions. We said, okay, part 2 is going to be how do we address this? And so this is part 2 today. And specifically, today is going to be about delivering the enterprise, delivering the applications, delivering the data to mobile devices. So we're taking that funnel, we're getting it one notch more specifically. We'll actually talk about some specific technology today. It's not going to be extremely minutely technical, but probably about 50-50 technical in concept and technical at a level where you'll be able to, we'll look at how the specific technologies affect these concepts as we move into delivering the enterprise to mobile devices. So today will be three main areas: mobile device management, mobile information management, and mobile application management. Notice, you know what we haven't talked about yet today? What's the other four-letter buzzword that's real big right now that I haven't mentioned yet? Anybody? What's that? Well, that one too. But no, it's BYOD. And I will get to that to the end. And this is the reason why the title for the session is out of date, because in the title of the session, I said, for corporate and personalizable devices. And as you will see, that distinction, that conversation is, once we have these three first parts of the conversation, we'll see that that's really a scapegoat issue and not anything to worry about. And there is a difference between BYOD and consumerization, and this is something I wrote about a whole long time, almost 6 months ago, but it's an important distinction to make. And here I show that BYOD and consumerization of IT, they're two different independent variables. So again, just to emphasize that point. So we are now going to move into the first part of the conversation, the mobile device management part. So once upon a time, or the story of MDM. So mobility. You guys, we all have been. We've been mobile for a long time. It means this, right? We've been connected in this way. I remember all sorts of people walking with belts full of these things, and we also had mobile phones. I mean, it was something like that. I don't know. It was. I was younger, so it was. I just imagine mobility about 10 years ago, before I was in this field, as being something like that. But really, if you think back to let's say 2004, you know what the hottest phone in 2004 was? Anybody remember this? Did anybody have one of these? That's a Motorola Razr. I didn't have one, but I wanted one because #1 selling flip phone of all time, by the way. Sold something like close to 100 million units, and think about how that compares to iPhone sales these days. So we had those, and we had those, and a lot of people had one of each of those. And then, it's a bit of a cliche to say, oh, 2007, everything changed. I know it's cliche, but it's the truth. We had that. Were any of you in line for that? Yeah, I actually wasn't, because I've only had this iPhone for about 6 weeks now. So that's been an interesting time. So we had that, and we had that, and suddenly the issue that we had this versus this. It's, oh, they're unmanageable. We can't let these iPhones into the enterprise. What are they doing? This again is the FUIT story that Brian tells all the time. They came in without anybody even knowing about it. A few years later, the story is the executives brought in the iPads, and it's always this big, huge fight. No, we can't. Yes, we can. This is the big issue, right? Well, it isn't, because thanks to the mobile device management APIs, thanks to the MDM APIs, this issue, it does not exist anymore. The control of these devices is completely possible with MDM software. To simplify it, to simplify it very much, if this is Windows, this is a mobile device, and this is mobile device management. So look at how simple and square and how cleanly these blocks fit together. I know that's simplifying it, but for the intents and purposes of this conversation, that's what we'll call it. So this device, and we have that fight versus that device, that there's two completely different things. That argument, you can put that argument together about 2 years ago with the opening of iOS and wherever iOS goes, Android follows, of the MDM APIs. So now your iPhone can equal your BlackBerry. So that's one argument that it's important to establish that as a baseline for device management. There are all sorts of companies out there that do this. There's the biggest, you'll recognize, Mobile Iron, Zenprise, AirWatch. These are the big guys. And then there are about 65, literally 65 other companies that offer it, circling to get a giant piece of this pie as everyone tries to figure out how they can lock down their iPhones and make them behave exactly like BlackBerrys. In fact, guess who's even getting in on it? BlackBerry even has its own MDM product that can manage, lock down, do whatever to iPhones and Androids. A little bit weird, a little bit late to the party, but even they are there. So this MDM, how does it lock down these devices? Well, once again, we could do an entire 75-minute session just on mobile device management, but we'll see why we want to move beyond the device management. But one of these things, one of the important parts about it is this concept of the XML MDM configuration profile. Apple makes it very easy to set up the actual profile. This is the iPhone configuration utility. It's free in the Apple App Store, the desktop App Store, not the mobile App Store, both for Windows and Mac. You can go through there. You can see all the different options for how you can configure the device. Allow installing apps. Allow the use of the camera. Turn the camera off. Anything like that. It's all right there in that convenient profile. You can set up your Wi-Fi. You can set up your VPN. You can use this profile to distribute your email credentials and everything. Unfortunately, such a nice, convenient little package doesn't exist for Android. There's no Android configuration profile. Part of the problem is, of course, that with each device, the basics are the same, but each manufacturer, some of the wider functions of the MDM configuration profiles are slightly different. But for all intents and purposes, the basics are the same. So this MDM that makes your iPhones and Android devices function like BlackBerrys, not completely like them. What's involved in this? Well, number one, encryption. That's important, right? Nobody can dispute that you want to have your device be encrypted. Passwords. You can use this profile to do all sorts of password enforcement. Remote wiping is another big one. You lose the phone. It's who knows where it is. It's in a pub somewhere. Wipe it completely clean. You can use it to pass out all those network controls, make it so that it can only get on certain networks, make it so they can only do certain things on certain networks. And with that configuration profile, if you have that configuration profile on that device and your control of that profile on the other end using that Zenprise, Mobile Iron, AirWatch, you have visibility into what applications are installed on the device. Beyond the basic install profile that you download, you install it on the device, you can distribute them to your users via email or via text message or have them go to a website to download. Many of these solutions, these MDM solutions, also come with a companion application that runs as a full-featured app on the device. There are a few benefits there. One of them is that the application can have access to location data. So in addition to knowing all that previous stuff about the app, you also know exactly where the device is. There are some interesting things that you can do when you know where the device is, think geofencing and the like. And the other things frequently involved in the agent application are the features that we'll talk about later in a second: mobile information management, mobile application management, app stores built into that agent application. But not all MDM solutions have an agent application. Some of their philosophies differ a little bit, but we'll see again that whether or not the MDM solution has an agent app is not really too big of an issue. So, meanwhile, as the MDM industry was taking shape over the last 2 years or so with the opening of all these APIs to control the devices, there's been stuff going on with Exchange. Now, Exchange, pardon me, there we go. Or the more up-to-date Exchange ActiveSync. Of course, it's been around for 10 years now. And it gives you much of the same functionality as MDM. So if you look at MDM versus Exchange ActiveSync, what can Exchange ActiveSync do? Exchange ActiveSync can encrypt your devices. It can enforce passwords, all sorts of password complexity requirements. It can remote wipe the device. And this Exchange ActiveSync is already all over the world. And what the MDM vendors won't tell you is that 90% of what they will be giving you, you can already do for free using software, and that's already likely in your environment. Another thing is instead of having to let your users surrender their devices to you, many of them willingly subject themselves to your management by unwittingly connecting their device's native email client into Exchange. So look, you're in the back door right there, and they did it. So you see that baseline management, besides MDM, there's also Exchange ActiveSync to do that. We'll see in mobile information and mobile application management, these basic functions you can get in other ways. So moving right along to mobile information management.
Can I ask a question on?
Yeah.
On the MDM, so with my phone, when I hook my phone, the native app, into the company email server, it uses if they're using Exchange ActiveSync, it can enforce passwords and stuff based on that?
Yes, it can. So your random, hey, my new Kindle, it has an Exchange ActiveSync client in it. Maybe I only want to use this Kindle every once in a while to connect into my corporate email. Well, guess what? Your corporation now has remote wiping capabilities for your Kindle that you're using to check your email once every other week when you happen to be on the couch and you don't want to reach all the way over to get your iPhone.
Maybe I'm jumping ahead in your presentation, but what's the use of mobile device management then? What do you get for it?
What do we get for it? Well,
it sounds like all we need to use is ActiveSync, and we've pretty much got it.
Yeah, that is true. One of the main differences that we saw is the visibility into applications, to be able to see what applications are on the device. That's, for all intents and purposes, the main bonus with mobile device management, and the ability to push and pull applications from the device and blacklist applications. So we will get into that in a second.
I just had a point on that. We actually use
Yeah.
And one of the big things for us is they have the device gateway, which enables you to actually whitelist and blacklist individual devices. So, you know, if you set up your iPhone, your company might allow that, or your iPad, but not all of your devices where you the MDM, you can actually specify which device or
Yes, yes. Moving to the interesting part, this mobile information management, it's very simple. It's files on a device, but as you'll see, I'm very fond of it and the concepts. Think the Dropbox app on your mobile device, and you know this is a hot button issue because of having information out in the world. But as Gabe Knuth wrote, this issue, this briefcase is lost on the dark street at night, and who knows what's in there. And with all of our mobile devices everywhere, isn't that what's exactly happening as well? Yes, and you know, yes, there are more mobile devices, and maybe the mobile device can hold more information on it than you can in a briefcase. But this issue of data being out there, it's not new. We never were in control of what the users could use. We never will be. So problems such as this will always exist. But so Dropbox, this mobile information concept, there are, of course, other more corporate versions of this now that we can get behind a lot more than Dropbox. We have Box, SkyDrive, Ignite, Cortado, ShareFile, VMware, Octopus getting into the game, AppSense, Project Orca, now AppSense, Data Now. Yes, there it is. There are so many. We had a week, 2 weeks straight, where we wrote about nothing but various file syncing products. But these file syncing products, remember the features that we got from mobile device management? Well, what do we get from mobile information management? We get, now this is with, perhaps not with Dropbox, but perhaps with other ones, or enforceable, rather with other services. You can enforce these things from a corporate way, from the more corporate versions of Dropbox. You get encryption, you get passwords, you get remote wiping. And aren't those the three most important things that we want? And we get those from mobile information management. And so we see that in addition to mobile device management and Exchange ActiveSync, that mobile information management gives us those features. But mobile information management also gives us a few other useful things. You know, the most important part about this device is that it has a data on it. Otherwise, we're back to that old telephone that Gabe was holding in that picture. And for this to be more than just the old telephone, we need the device on it. Now, I spoke a second ago of we have Dropbox and we have the corporate versions, and there are a few issues to consider when considering these mobile information management products. What do you want the product to look like? Do you want it to be like this? Do you want it to be encompassing absolutely everything that a user does from the consumer side? You know, Dropbox, I use absolutely everything on my computer is in Dropbox. I use it for my personal stuff, my user-created stuff, and if our corporation was plugged into it, I would use it for that. Or do you want your mobile information management solution to have its heritage in the more one-way enterprise document management, full DLP type products? And can one mobile information management solution fill both of these niches? It's possible, but that's an issue to consider, to decide whether you want to fill one role or both when you're looking at mobile information management. another reason why mobile information management is good, why it's the killer app, even if you don't have any other apps on your device or any other corporate apps besides the mobile information management app, hey, I still have a preview. This happens to be Dropbox. We see this is chapter 10 of the VDI delusion, alternatives to Windows desktop applications. This is one of my chapters. And in the most basic way, I have that on my device. I can read it even without any other applications. If I have other applications on my device, this is what I happen to have on my iPhone that was able to open those devices. Some of these have more controlled backgrounds. Some of them are, less control and more freewheeling. But I can use that as a way to interface with my other applications on the device. We don't have a native file structure on these devices that we can pull at in the way that we're familiar with, but we do have this open-in functionality that really makes this a fundamentally useful killer application. When considering these mobile information management products, also think about the offline access. Some of them have the cache locally and some don't, and I'm sure you're all familiar with this. How many people have a Dropbox client on your phone? Yeah. So how many people have maybe a corporate box account or something like that, something that's in corporate control? Okay, yeah, that's really exciting to see. And these native ways of looking through the files, it's again, it's the killer app. So I spoke. We saw that open-in function where we could open the document in various other applications. If the mobile information management app can act as a native browser for your your desktop-based files, if you're using something that opens in a remote desktop, wouldn't you at least want to be able to browse through the files in a native interface? So we look and think like Niveo is an online an online file syncing service. You can rent XenApp applications for something ridiculously cheap. But until you're in the actual Windows-based XenApp app, you're in the native file browser, and there's a preview function, so everything is completely mobile device or tablet native until you get to the point where we're actually launching the document in a XenApp. And so there's that cool that file type association is definitely very, very useful. So from mobile information management, from merely having documents on the device and being able to open them in random applications that I already have on the device, or file type association to open in some sort of XenApp, the third part of this triangle of mobility management features is mobile application management. So we've gone beyond moving the device, beyond managing the device, beyond merely managing the information and getting it on the device. The next frontier is actually managing the mobile applications. So, managed mobile applications. What does this give you? Encryption, passwords around your application at an application level. This doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether the device is managed, whether or not the device is encrypted, whether or not there's a password on the device. Your managed mobile applications, passwords, remote wiping the applications, network controls, building building app-level VPNs into each individual application instead of worrying about a VPN or on the entire mobile device, and visibility into not all of the apps, but the corporate managed apps, the apps that happen to be that happen to be under control. So these are all the exact same features as mobile device management, except you're only doing it with the applications. So when we talk about mobile device management, a lot of people talk about it by proxy, by talking about building an enterprise app store. And yeah, that's the fun thing that we see at the beginning. We, hey, let's build ourselves an app store. It'll look just like the iOS iTunes app store, except it'll be our corporate apps. Won't that be exciting? It might be a little bit exciting, but is it going to do anything real? I mean, once we have the applications downloaded on the device, whether it's emailed through a link or a link on our on some internal website, or it's a fancy corporate app store, that really doesn't matter that much to us. Another issue that people like to talk about is we have the Apple Volume Purchasing Program. That'll take care of our mobile application management, won't it? Well, once again, this is not really something that we need to be worrying too much. All the Apple Volume Purchasing Program means is that they send you a spreadsheet of redemption codes. You can put it in the break room on the bulletin board with a pen and say, hey, don't forget to cross off your redemption code when you use that. So there's very little application management built into that. It does not affect the behavior of any of those applications on the user's device. It does not provision them or deprovision them. It just gives you a coupon book, as somebody put it a few days ago. So you may be thinking, okay, so application management, this is the time to, does this mean that we have to build some apps? I mean, because this is where we all, we're first thing on our mind is building ourselves some corporate mobile apps, right? Everyone's doing that right now? I didn't think so. And of course, we know that that's a few, maybe a little ways off after we get some other issues taken care of. Maybe the apps that maybe we're not quite building our own corporate apps yet, but we're using some SaaS, and they have client applications, native SaaS clients. I don't like this. A quick aside, it's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. There's some people out there and some vendors out there that use the term SaaS apps, and I'm like, okay, are you talking about a web app? Are you talking about a native app? But for right now, our building our own applications, we know is a few years off. We might have some native mobile app endpoint clients for some SaaS that we use. And so, what about managing our other applications on our devices? Is VDI going to be a big part of the mobile application management story on our device? That's all I have to say. We've made this point again and again that as much as we're wonderfully getting to the point where we can deliver this wonderful product, we know that it's not for these devices. We know that using a mobile device means using a native mobile application, especially if it's a small form factor one like this. Because otherwise, to think otherwise is to ask for FUIT. And not to mention, one of our other fun activities that we've been writing about everybody's favorite, Microsoft licensing. I mean, seriously, like companion device license. What is this stuff? I mean, did anybody take the Geek Out qualification quiz? When we had a qualification question that said, like, which of the following is a real Microsoft licensing product? And you know, it's crazy. There's Nathan Coutinho's whole session about this, and we could riff on this forever, as we have many, many times on Brian and Gabe and Jack Live. But we can move on from this. So since we're not quite yet building our own native mobile applications, you know, there are other options. How about Project Golden Gate, the Citrix XenApp Mobility Pack? You know, it's been around for about 6 months now. I did a quick little video at Synergy a week and a half ago. This is where it takes advantage of that Citrix receiver has access to some of the hardware functions. You know, it knows which way the device is, and it can pull up the on-screen keyboard. So you can make Windows-based applications just a bit more smooth and easy to use for mobile devices. They assured me that it wasn't that hard to do. And also, HTML5 web apps. And you know, like look at these 3 devices. We have almost the exact same experience on every device. So until we get to building our own full native applications, we have those options. And I do want to stress that this desire for natively running applications, this extends to these as well. So, you know, I much prefer using native built-in applications. You know, I use the locally installed TweetDeck. I know Brian uses the Chrome version of TweetDeck, but I prefer the locally installed one. You know, the most important application, by the way, for me is of all these things on my desktop, and most of those are screenshots because they, you know, when I'm building the presentations, they get dumped there automatically. But the most important one is that one right there, which allows my native applications. That's the Dropbox app, or the Dropbox icon. That one is very important for me for using to make all of my locally installed native applications work just like SaaS applications, because thanks to the Dropbox syncing, my desktop computer back in the office is exactly the same, and I can sit down and not even know which one I'm sitting at. But getting back to the native application management, really the exciting part of what I came here to talk about. So remember, this is our Dropbox app, and I say Dropbox as a genericized term. It could be a corporate version of Dropbox that actually has corporate controls. We have our preview function, and we have our open-in function. Now, currently, there are no products that actually do this yet, but if you use your imagination a bit, you can see that this will be in the works. So I hit the open-in button. I have all these applications, but say my IT department, they only want me to use that one because they provisioned that one. By building management into that application, and by having a plug into the Dropbox type app as well, that file type association can be limited to specific mobile applications. This isn't something that's a product from any one company today, but a year from now, I'm sure there will be many that do it. And so suddenly, I'm in only the corporate controlled application because it's being managed and plugged into the Dropbox app.
So for this to work, so they'd have to, like IT would have to give me the Dropbox-like app, and that's where the restriction is, right? So So you're limiting like if I have like share file, you're limiting the function of share file, so I can only open
in another application that's also given to you and managed by IT.
But they couldn't manage. If I got Dropbox on my own, they couldn't really.
Oh yeah, unless they were managing the entire device.
Right, okay.
But we'll get to the perils of that in a second. And so this managing the native applications, this is where things have been getting really interesting today. A lot of those companies that build those flashy App Store products, but the more interesting part of their stories are the SDKs for native mobile application management. So you have your recipe book, you build in your authentication, your encryption, your remote wipe, it integrates your native applications with your Dropbox type application. So you can build all these things into your app because we're all building apps, right? For all of our native, for all of our line of business apps, we're building native apps. Right, we're not. We're getting our apps from other places sometimes, like we said. Other SaaS providers are giving us our native mobile app clients. But there are ways around that too, like app wrapping. App wrapping is a way of taking a pre-existing mobile device or mobile application and deploying it with a bit of extra code around it. So no matter how freewheeling that app was written, or no matter who it was written by, it's like some 19-year-old kid, Joe, the iOS app developer, do you trust him to bake all this stuff into the SDK? I don't know, maybe. But here, you just wrap around it with some authentication, some encryption, some remote wiping capabilities, and suddenly any old app that happens to be out there, any old app that you have access to the package file, that is, now you can suddenly add that level of control. So a lot of there are a lot of mobility space vendors that have products around this. There's Nucona, there's Mukana, but suddenly, well, it's 16 days ago now, but look at who else is getting into mobile application management. The desktop companies. This is WrapSphere, just over 2 weeks ago. The AppSense acquisition of WrapSphere, that was an application wrapping company. That's what they do. Also, Citrix, the day after the AppSense announcement, they announced, of course, their cloud gateway mobile application management. They call it the packaging tool, but the industry is pretty much calling this app wrapping. And even Microsoft is getting in on the game, although their mobile app wrapping or their mobile application management is very limited. It's actually just limited to providing a link to an application to be downloaded. No. Right. Right. So many of these, just about all of the big MDM vendors have plugs into Active Directory. You map the mobile device management functions to AD group objects, and the exciting part is when guys like this get in the game, they have. Suddenly you have the mobile application management and the desktop Windows related things all together in one stack, and I can maybe this is a bit of hubris, but I can only see that as being a good thing.
Is that, I mean, it seems
Well, it is pretty futuristic right now. I mean, but with the I'm going to get into a little bit more realistic things now. But things like the mobile information management. I mean, how many of you raise your hands for Dropbox? A lot. So as IT, and this is a point that we make a lot. Dropbox is there. It's on the user's device. As IT, do we want to be a part of that, or do we want to just let that train leave? There's that choice to be made. So make that decision. I want to talk a little bit more about what you can do with mobile application management in conjunction with MDM profiles. Remember, we said that by having the MDM profile on the device, you can look into where the application is, and so suddenly you can look into where the device is. So suddenly you can manage the applications more in the context of what's going on in the entire device. And so the question is MDM, is having a configuration profile on the device always, does that mean that you're managing the device? Even though the MDM profile does give you access to do all those device management things, if you are only using the profile just to find out just a few things about the device, does that count? Do you count that as management? Some of these mobile application management vendors say, don't manage the device, just manage the applications, except we're going to put an MDM profile on the device. So, which is it? Like I said, you can do cool things when you're managing applications and you're managing the device as well. You can do a lot of cool things. But if you assume the worst and you build everything into the application itself, that encryption, that remote wiping, that password, you build that all into the application, assume a completely untrusted device, then as you can imagine, you'll be prepared for any device scenario. And the good part about that is, and now I'm finally getting to it. If you assume the worst, guess what doesn't matter anymore? Who cares whose device it is? If the applications that you're managing are completely sealed and completely insulated, then you might not have to worry about managing the device. It might not matter whose device it is. But we see that these issues of having the mobile information management in place and having later mobile application management in place, these are the same for bring your own device and for corporate liable applications. So, why are people doing BYOD? We can have a whole session about this. Is it because they want the flashy new device? Like everybody wants flashy devices, right? Well, as we learned earlier, thanks to the MDM APIs, those devices can be controlled nearly like your old school BlackBerrys. Is it from device choice? That's certainly possible. Is it to save money? I don't know. For one thing, if you're giving your employees money to buy the consumer devices and then managing with MDM, that doesn't really equal a real BYOD scenario. And then with BYOD, we can talk about these other issues like device diversities, and are people bringing in iPads or I don't even know what that is. That's a Kindle and a Nook tablet. Let's get real. We're talking about these, right? So these, and among these BYOD issues, and like I said, this BYOD is just sort of a side route after we've gone through the mobile information management and the mobile application management. Another issue when we're thinking about bring your own devices is can we treat tablets differently? Maybe we're very sensitive about how we treat people's BYO smartphones being very, trying to be very fair and equitable about the policy. But even though we've established the utility of a tablet these days, we can still treat it. With a little bit differently because yes, we acknowledge we have to give you a computer and we have to give you a mobile phone, but you can maybe still call a tablet a bit of a luxury item. So maybe we can still say if you're using a tablet in our environment, you're going to play by our MDM rules. That is. And then there are all sorts of other cans of worms to open. Coming up with an acceptable use policy, really talking to your lawyers, talking to your human resources. This is all these things to deal with when dealing with BYOD. But the important thing to remember is that if the mobile information management and mobile application management are in place, it's the same for both personal and corporate. Which leaves us to the question, should I manage the devices? And my slides I got a little bit ahead of myself here, so we'll reinforce how this is all pretty much the same for personal and corporate devices. But should I manage my devices? Because that encryption, passwords, remote wiping, remember we get that with mobile information management and mobile application management. So if we can get that without having to muck around in the device, why would we want to get in the device? Well, so remember one of the things that mobile device management gives you is a view inside of the device. You can see what other applications are on the device. And if you actually do want to lock down your devices to turn those devices into that device, or even turn that device into that device, certainly there are lots of scenarios where that's necessary and very appropriate, and the MDM will be your savior because suddenly you can have the functionality of that, but the form factor of that, and people will get very excited about it, and that's a great thing, and it's enabled by the opening of those APIs. It's something that we can do now. So the visibility into the applications is the big issue. Why is that a big issue? Number one, it's the email question. And this is a bit of a side road here. Remember, we said by managing applications and managing the information, we get a view into the corporate managed applications, but we don't get a view into the installed applications on the device. With Exchange Active Sync, we don't get a view into the installed applications on the device. And why is that? Why would we want? What's the number one reason why we want to have a view into those applications? And that's the email question. Of course, we know that by using the native built-in client built into our mobile devices, that all sorts of other applications can reach in there and siphon out contacts. They can send emails posing very obvious challenges. So the decision is: do you want to use MDM to view the applications on the device and maybe blacklist some applications so that you don't have to deal with that issue? Or do you want to use a sandboxed email client? This is good technology. It's good, not great, as the saying goes. that will, when your email is sandboxed in an individual application, then maybe you don't have to worry so much about those other applications on the device. But so why wouldn't we want to use MDM software to manage the device? Well, so here's our device. Here's my corporate application. Here's my, oh, I like to go crazy on the weekend device. But now my company can see that application. I don't know about that. And even with my corporate issued iPhone, I'm still, it may be corporate issued, but it's an iPhone. I have expectations of how I use this thing. There are pictures of me going crazy on the weekends. I mean, or during the week, or during BriForum, or whatever. But do I want my company to have a view of that? Well, there are a bunch of them here, so they already get to see me doing that anyway. But for some, that may be a big issue. And we said, so maybe we wanted to, one of the reasons for managing devices was so that we could blacklist applications. And like some applications, it's easy to see that we shouldn't be letting our users have them on our devices. We shouldn't have them on our corporate devices. But for others, they're a little bit disguised. And how do you tell? What is a legitimate application to one person may not be to another. This whole issue of application security. There are books and many interesting sessions at the RSA conference that I went to a little while ago. But so the bottom line is, we know that some of them are definitely bad. We know that some of them might be bad. But do we want to block all of these? Like, on this new modern iPhone, like how old school is it being like, well, we're gonna block this application and we're gonna block this application? Do you really want to have to be the arbiter of what random personal applications your users can have on their devices? Like, oh, like there's the next big popular Instagram app, and do you want them coming to IT and being like, hey, can you whitelist this application for us? You don't want to deal with that. And so if you have all your security built into your mobile information management and your mobile application management systems, you don't have to. Another thing, if you're managing the whole device, maybe you have long passwords because they have to be secure. So every time I unlock my device, am I going to have to like put in my 8 digits with an uppercase and a lowercase and a numeral and a non-letter? I don't want to do that. You can put as long of a password as you want on my sensitive documents that I only have to access once a week, but don't put it on my whole device. No user is going to want that. They're gonna be doing one of these pulling their hair out things. What about other options for how we maybe want to approach managing devices? Do we maybe a multi-tier approach? We have our knowledge workers. This is an opera house. I used to be a musician, as some of you know. So, down in these seats down here, they're pretty good, but they're not high up. But you have most of the people sit down there. So you have a different management configuration for each group of workers. So knowledge workers have one configuration. Task workers and contractors, they have, up in the nosebleed seats, they have a little bit less access. And then you have your executives in the royal box there. They can have different levels of access. Or how about some sort of weird split personality solutions? Or hey, why don't we virtualize the phone? Well, because we're all going to be jumping up and down to have our phones virtualized, aren't we? I mean, Oh, okay. All of us that have Android phones are going to be jumping up and down to have them virtualized, aren't we? Okay. So, that's just, once again, as soon as you do something like that, it's, yeah, good luck with your corporate Android. I'm going back to my BlackBerry. Or, you maybe provide some incentive, like if you let us manage our device, if you let us make you require a 16-digit password on your entire device, well, maybe, hey, once you're in, you can have access to all of our corporate resources. So, that's what you get when you're considering whether or not to manage a device. But for the ideal that I like to think of for BYOD is this. And this is not for your data, not for your apps. This is for your users. As you bring in your, you bring in your significant other's iPad like just for a week because you're going to be on a plane and you want to take your big heavy computer. If you're bringing that iPad just for a week, do you want to bring it into an environment that's going to make you remove half your personal applications? You don't want to do that. So in the grand tradition of Brian and Gabe and Jack bloggers making big predictions, I've already been wrong in one big prediction so far. I was thinking maybe Citrix would make an acquisition to do their mobile application management, but I was wrong in that one. So I'm going to make another one. We'll see if I'm right about this one. This is the device management impending war. You have, on one side, you have the traditional MDM providers. On the other side, you have the desktop-related and virtualization-related vendors that are used to dealing with more unmanaged devices. In the middle is device management. This side says yes, this side says no. It's going to be, my prediction is over the next year that we could see some poll back and forth about that. So wait for me to be proven wrong soon. So a few more interesting philosophical things that I want to touch on. I know we're nearing the end. This email sandboxing thing. Remember, I talked about how within the last 2 weeks, just two more vendors, we saw getting into mobile application management. This good technology. This is pretty much one of the most popular sandbox email applications today. There are lots of people who like to get a piece of this. This is, at Synergy, remember we saw a native mobile application, third-party mail client on a device in the keynote. So, imagine the possible directions from that. This is another one of the concepts. This is a slide stolen from Brian. This represents the difference between on and off-premise workers and how we, maybe we make the firewall just around the data center, not around the premises of the office, and treat everyone untrusted. This is, this with our managed versus unmanaged device debate. This is a similar concept here. So the final questions are, what do we do now? We know about some more of these technologies that are out there now. We know what's possible with MDM, and a lot of this might answer, the question might answer for yourself, whether your work environment looks like this. Yeah, maybe just some mobile information management and some mobile application management will be fine. If you work here, yeah, maybe you'll be locking down the devices with the MDM software. Just saying. For many situations, that question will answer itself. But for right now, the number one issue, the issue that I get so excited about that it makes me want to jump up and down, is which one of these mobile information management. remember, even if you don't manage any other applications at all, that information is going to be on your devices. Do you want to be a part of that, or do you want to let it happen on its own? This is the #1 action item that I can think of. And like we said, VDI will be part of the mobility scene in the future. It will be not for all of our apps. It will be for our legacy Windows apps, and they will be delivered beautifully. But right now, our road starts at mobile information management. Mobile application management and homegrown apps, that's farther down the road. Maybe next year in London, maybe we can have something like building your own apps session. But this mobile application management is a bit off in the future after mobile information management. And of course, we take advantage of the SaaS applications and services, the applications that come from them, so that we're not also, that's something before we're building our own applications. And so I spoke a lot about how you can get so much out of MDM, or so many features out of mobile information management and mobile application management without managing the device. So are we seeing this? That is the question. This is, as I said a few minutes ago, this is some sort of war that's not really war, but there could be some healthy debate about this from the legacy device management companies versus the legacy hands-off the device companies. But the important thing we know, and this is getting back to the much higher level, the theme of just about every one of Brian's presentations, once we abstract these, we'll be ready to handle any different form factor changes. So when we move on beyond iPhones and iPads and Android tablets, as long as we can manage the information and the application separate from the device, we'll be fine. So when we get onto new device form factors, we'll be able to handle them. We're not going to get thrown the loop that we did when the iOS devices came out, because that distributing everything in one container, which used to be the Windows container, once we've taken care of that, breaking that down, we'll be able to handle those new form factors much more smoothly. Will FUIT ever go away? I think this is a good question for Brian's session this afternoon. Now what? So with that, the future for managing mobile applications and mobile information looks bright. Every day of the week, well, not today because I'm here, but most every day of the week, I'm writing about it here at consumerizeit.com. I'm tweeting about it at Jack Madden. If you would like to argue any of these points with me, tell me I'm brilliant, tell me I'm a moron and I don't know what I'm talking about, anything, send me an email or find me the rest of the day. And so I just want to say thank you very much for listening today.